Let's get right into it. This is big news. If you're a real estate agent, if you're a broker, if you're in the industry and you care about your industry, this is huge news. Judge denies motion by NAR and the top brokerages that are involved in this class action lawsuit to dismiss buyer commission lawsuit. So NAR and a number of these big names in real estate brokerage like Realogy and Keller Williams, who are named in this class action lawsuit, filed to dismiss the lawsuit, and that was denied by Judge Andrea Wood, who argued that the plaintiffs would have paid substantially lower commissions if not for the buyer broker commission rule. So if you're unfamiliar with this, and we've talked about this in the past here on The Real Word.
It's actually been a little while.
It's been a while
since we have chatted about this.
Talked about it really in 2019. I don't think we talked about it at all in 2020.
I don't think that there's been so many other things to discuss in 2020.
But really, this class action lawsuit started in 2019 with, what's the guy's name here? Christopher.
Is his name Christopher Morrill? The lawsuit filed in 2019 on behalf of seller Christopher Morrill.
Yeah. So this seller basically wanted to start this class action lawsuit. Thought the agreement that I think he was in Minnesota, if I remember correctly.
It's not saying exactly where he's from, but it sounds like there's a couple related lawsuits.
If I remember correctly, I think that's where
commissions between the listing and buyer broker. Yeah.
So essentially, he argues that this listing contract, when he sold his home, that he signed on his own free will, was basically cornering him into buying or paying for the buyer broker commission without his knowledge, and he had really no other choice to do it, and it kind of cornered him into this situation, right?
No other choice.
I mean, that's basically kind of what he argues, that the industry is set up where the sellers have to pay the buyer broker commission and they have no options. And this judge agrees that this lawsuit should move forward. I will say that NAR and, like Realogy, for example, stand, firm in their position. Here's a spokesperson for Realogy. We are disappointed in the court's decision and continue to believe this case is without merit. There's a lot of comments. We're going to link up the Inman article.
There's so many comments.
Lots and lots of comments. I see long comments, paragraph-style comments from agents on this article. I encourage you, if you're an agent, to read this. This is something to pay attention to. I know NAR said basically, they're disappointed in the ruling, but they told Inman that it was only the first round. Is this the first round of a 12-round fight? You know how these things can drag on for years, these class action lawsuits. Is this a 6-round fight? Is it a 9-round? I think it's probably going to be a 12-round fight. It's going to go all the way.
All the way.
With NAR. I think so. I think they're going to.
So like 12 rounds? Like what are you thinking? Like 12 years? I mean, I feel like there's so many different angles to it because and each state is so wildly different depending on how your contract is written or how things are disclosed, or because technically like a seller is paying the agent, and then the agent is offering
paying
out
the brokerage,
right? Like we're offering out this like collaboration fee, I guess,
right?
But again, I don't know any other state besides our own. But each company is different. Like my listing agreement, where at Ravis, where we are now, it was wildly different from Coldwell Bankers.
But it's still along the same premise of the broker is going to get paid on the listing side and then pay out the buyer broker, and that's. While there are some different rules around disclosure and state rules, that's typically basically how it goes across the country. As the case moves forward, we intend to demonstrate how the MLS system creates competitive, efficient markets that benefit from buyers and sellers as well as small business brokerages. This is a spokesperson for NAR telling Inman, the MLS fosters cooperation between brokers, providing the best and greatest number of options for buyers and sellers. So that's their position. Obviously, the class action lawsuit says that's not the case. In denying this motion to dismiss, Judge Andrea Wood argued that the plaintiffs would have paid substantially lower commissions if not for this, basically the way this is set up. They would have paid these lower commissions. In some, plaintiffs' allegations plausibly show that the buyer broker commission rules prevent effective negotiation over commission rates and cause an artificial inflation of buyer broker commission rates in the market served by the MLS services identified in the lawsuit. So that all those different MLSs. Basically, this judge is agreeing that these commissions are highly inflated the way the MLS cooperation system works, right? So if I'm listing my home with you and you're saying, hey, my commission is 6%, which you're going to tell me it's completely negotiable, right?
Of course.
But you're also going to tell me that you've got to pay the buyer broker. And when you look at the MLS, all the buyer brokers are paid X amount. Do you want to, you as the seller, stay in line with what's being offered to all of these buyer brokers? I say, okay, that means reasonable. Yes, I agree. Boom, right. Sign.
Yep.
And their position is that is inflating these
sellers' costs.
These costs, and that the buyer should have to pay the commission for themselves and negotiate directly with the agent or the broker that they're using for their commission on their side, and same thing for the seller, which theoretically in their case here would bring those commissions down because there'd be more free and open negotiation. What do you think if that were to happen, right? If this class action lawsuit, they win, and now we've got to go to that scenario. Let's just play, play out the scenario. Buyers now have to pay their buyer agents, and sellers have to pay their listing agent, and the listing agent's not paying the buyer broker. What happens to the industry as we know it?
Well, and I can't even, because I'm trying to wrap my brain around how that would all work, right? So obviously the seller is paying, so let's just, right, well, we won't say percentages, right? Don't they tell us to talking bananas? So say your seller is giving you 2 bananas, but if the buyer now doesn't want to pay a fee, but if you're going directly to the listing agent, and if that listing agent is actually working for you, wouldn't that listing agent then want to require some sort of buyer compensation if they're is that listing agent now negotiating compensation with the buyer,
right, now that's coming to them? And
so instead of just getting 2 bananas, that if you're signing a contract and part of that contract is compensation, and again, we know that most brokerages like there to be some sort of minimum compensation for what we're doing as agents, are they then required to then have to sign them up as a buyer? So the buyers, even if they're going directly to, because we all know, even going directly to a listing agent, the listing agent is still getting the full amount of commission.
I can tell you exactly what would happen. Well, if this happens,
of course, the listing agent probably won't require them to
probably not. That'll probably be the way it goes, and the listing agents would win in this case. If you're a dominant listing agent, you'd be fine. Most of your business is built off of listings. Here's what would happen.
It would be interesting though. My only question there is like, especially right now when there's so like multiple offers, right? Like there are now 12 agents responsible for 12 different buyers. And I'm just saying, cause there's 12 offers, like, so I wonder though, if there isn't a buyer, is that listing agent even really able to then get that seller the best price for their home? Cause then now you're managing 12 different people that are like hypothetically your buyers.
This would open up everything that's wrong with dual agency. This would open that can of worms up even more. And I can tell you right now, if this were to happen where buyers have to pay their buyer agent directly and the sellers pay their listing agent directly, 99% of buyer agents would not exist. So Zillow should be paying attention to this, because that's their whole flex model is built off of getting referral fees from buyer agents, which are paid from the listing broker to the buyer brokerage.
Well, like we talked last week, though, now they're employees. I mean, they're like a step ahead of this little decision.
Possibly. There's a comment here that's referring to a quote in the article. The broker commission structure also ensures greater access for first-time, low-income, and many other home buyers who otherwise couldn't afford a home purchase. Think about it. If you're in the median
that person
point
did
as a
say,
buyer,
what? I mean, I don't think he agrees, but...
Well, there's a lot of people that agree, disagree. My point is, this person that made that comment is absolutely correct. Here's why. The median price buyer, right now, because we're seeing all these multiple offers, we all know, you guys know what's happening. The median price point, whether it's 200, 300, 350 in your market, whatever it is, that median price point, how often are those buyers asking for their closing costs to be in the deal?
Eight times out of 10.
Right? Like their bank fees, they want wrapped in the deal so that they can finance it. There is little to zero chance that buyer is now going to have a pool of cash to go and pay a buyer broker. So they're just going to say, you know what? I'm not going to use a buyer broker.
Right.
I'm going to figure this out on my own. I'm going to go directly to the listing, make my offers, and not worry about that extra expense. My goal here as a buyer is to buy a home.
Right.
Okay. And a lot of people don't understand that National Association of Realtors is set up to protect the consumer, that the MLSs and the cooperation that we sign up for as real estate agents in our industry and the code of ethics that we sign off on is set up to protect buyers and sellers, right? We have an ethical obligation to do that. Now, if a buyer who just wants what they want to move out of the apartment, we're living in a health crisis, I want to get a home, I need a yard. When they go to that listing agent, they're not thinking, is that listing agent going to screw me? They're thinking, what's the best way for me to get a home? And I can't afford to pay the buyer agent and get the information that I need to actually make a successful deal. I'm just going to do the negotiation on myself. It will wipe out the buyer agents out of this industry. We will be Europe. You will see people and now, I mean, sellers are going to say, you know what, let's even like reduce your commission a little bit here.
It's funny though, because I'm seeing more and more for sale by owners right now.
Right now? I'm not seeing a lot.
What?
I haven't seen a lot, but I know.
I've visited at least 3 in the last week. Yes. They're all willing to cooperate.
Right.
They're willing to give out a buyer broker fee because they know that that's incentive to get people in. But
I mean, we've seen when the market gets good, and that's why you're probably seeing it a lot right now with some of the buyers you're working with. We've seen this in history. An increase in for sale by owners when the market gets good. But why hasn't that actually caught on? Why haven't, listings for a fee actually caught on? Because people don't get the job done themselves. Right. They can't literally, there's a million hats of real estate agent wears.
Absolutely.
The whole organizational process. It is a part-time job. And if you're a seller or a buyer and you actually have a job, because most people do have a job because they need income to buy,
right?
Or they got the house because they've got income. If you actually have a job and a life and kids, you can't take on this part-time job, nor do the really intelligent, highly intelligent buyers and sellers in the marketplace want to take this job on themselves because it's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of steps in this process, and they just don't literally want to do it, and they're incapable of getting that top value because they're doing it once out of every 7 years or however often they move, right? Think about it. Do you want somebody giving you surgery that does it once of every 7 years? You want somebody giving you financial advice that only pays attention to finances once out of every 7 years, right? That's why people use real estate professionals.
And will a buyer even go to a for sale by owner? Anyway.
Buyers typically don't want to go to the for sale.
Typically they don't. But again, I think that's why it's smart that at least they're offering out something to cooperate with an agent. But no, I can't imagine they would. I can't imagine I look at my kids. Obviously they're wildly younger, but I'm confident that the age of 18, 19, or obviously maybe even older, when they want to go buy a house, I mean, you are really out there on your own if you don't have any sort of representation to help guide you, attorneys and inspection items.
What blows my mind about this, and the reason I'm surprised that the judge didn't dismiss and that this is going to go forward, because I do believe this has absolutely no merit. This seller, the lawsuit filed in 2019 on behalf of Christopher Morel, is one of 2 related lawsuits seeking class action status that allege sharing of commissions between the listing and buyer broker. This seller, to your point, had the ability to say no. The commission was negotiable. Could have interviewed. I wonder how many actual brokers Christopher interviewed and how much negotiating this individual did. This individual also had the ability to go listing for a fee directly into the MLS. Right. This individual also had the ability to go for sale by owner. This is called maybe like an open market, right? Where people can make their own decisions. And, this particular individual could have literally paid a fee to go on the MLS.
Right. I don't think it's much. I think it's like $500 or $300. Right. I think
it's like $500.
Yeah.
So to me, with all the options available to sellers, which is everything, because everything's completely negotiable, or they can do it themselves, right? Like you can do it yourself. With all these options, it is a little crazy that they are entertaining this lawsuit. Now, there's a lot of agents in the comments that disagree with me. You go to Carmen right at the top. I'm a realtor since 1989, and I'm so glad this is happening. I don't agree with the structure at all. I believe the buyer needs to pay the buyer's agent for actual buyer representation. Seller's agent can advertise that their seller is willing on this transaction to pay a buyer broker fee. Buyer must sign a representation agreement with the fee spelled out. They also need to be 100% pre-approved. Okay. Hello, Carmen. Right. Having bored people going through home. Then this is somebody just complain. How much, Carmen, can you complain in one comment? I don't even want to press see more, and I can't on the piece of paper there, because all you've done after your point here is complain that you don't want people that are just looking, okay? Like, what business, what product doesn't have people that just look? You go into a clothing store, some people are looking, some people are buying. You go to a car dealership, some people happen to be looking and getting the free cupcake and the coffee. Some people happen to be driving off the lot with a car. You're on Instagram, something pops up, maybe a nice hat, maybe some sunglasses. Some people click the little thing and do a little looking. Some people buy. Okay, there's going to be people that look before they buy, Carmen. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you're a very nice realtor since 1989. Carmen. I hate people that start off. This is why, and I love you, Carmen. I don't hate you. I'll take that back. I don't know you. What I hate is agents that have to tell you how long they've been in the business before they make their point. Nobody cares that you've been in since 1989. Yeah. You've clearly,
I get that
you've clearly made your money, right? Because you've been doing it this way since 1989, 31 years. Okay. What I would say is, Carmen, don't know much about you, but maybe you wouldn't even be in this industry if these were the rules. Okay. You might not even have had the opportunity, because we're at 1.3 million members of NAR right now. We'd probably get rid of about 1 million and only need 300,000. I know Zillow agrees with that number, that we don't need this many agents. Just look at what they're doing with the Flex program. We don't need this many agents theoretically. Okay. The buyers and the sellers are only concerned about their transaction. They're not concerned about our industry. This is the moment that your dues actually mean something, with NAR and these other brokerages having to defend themselves in this lawsuit. Do I think, do I think that this opens up a really healthy discussion around dual agency? Yes, I do. Yeah, I think that is a real healthy discussion to be had in this industry. But to take away, I think this gives people less choices if this lawsuit goes through, as opposed to what they have now, which is every opportunity, every choice to negotiate.
That I agree with. I think as a consumer, you certainly are going to be losing, like a confidant. You're going to be losing somebody that you can now really, truly trust and feel like they are truly working in your best interest. That whole thing is kind of weird. I mean, I'm sure Carmen is lovely, and I'm never one, but like, maybe willing. I mean, if the seller is willing to, I don't know, that whole paragraph is interesting, but I think the whole thing is very interesting.
And maybe to Carmen's point here, you do that. You have some listings that just aren't willing to pay buyer broker. But I mean, I'm telling you, that better be like on the front of Zillow. The buyers better understand that, not just the agents. Right now,
I actually like Christopher, because Christopher Dean is talking about many don't even put any value on like the buyers. So there was someone in here, maybe it wasn't him, that was talking about when you offer out the buyer broker, like that agent is getting that amount of money regardless of what kind of service you get, yep. which I think some people are arguing too. So does something need to be fixed? Probably, but this makes me really nervous.
I just don't have a solution for buyers to get the representation they need, especially first-time home buyers, other than what is being practiced today with the cooperation in the MLS. The banks aren't going to finance a buyer agent's commission. Okay. No. They'll be willing to finance their fees for sure.
Right.
In the form of closing costs being covered by the seller. And listen, this is what sellers do. It's a huge cost to sell your home. You got to pay the state and the Fed conveyance tax, right? In most situations, you've got to pay your listing agent. Okay. You've also got to pay in many instances in the median price point, those closing costs. And then if you want to open yourself up to the entire market and every possibility, you got to offer through your broker right now today, the ability to pay that buyer broker agent.
Yeah.
Now I'm certain sellers would say, hey, I'd rather pay half of the commission and have all of the buyers, right? But that is going to leave, especially those that are vulnerable to be taken advantage of on the buy side, buyers without representation. So if you can tell me how buyers get representation, because none of them are going to be able to pay this out of pocket in the median price points, you can tell me how to get them representation, then we've got something to talk about.
Right, because then at that point your listing agent is now working for the buyer too. Yeah. So
all right, so I don't think this judge understands the industry. I'm certain that Judge Andrea Wood and the the U.S. District Court are going to get a real education in the way the MLS works and the way this industry works. And how it does protect consumers over the length of this lawsuit. What I'll say to agents is right now, this isn't changing anytime soon. They said it's round 1 of the fight. So you've got years in low interest rate times, which could last, we're hearing now, till 2025 potentially. You have years to get way ahead of the curve, save a lot of money, really create great brand in your community, take care of your clients before anything changes. But pay attention to this, understand what it could mean for your business, and start thinking about how you're going to be a listing agent first before everything. Right?
Period.
All right. Racket number 2. And just going back to this, I do think we need to have more discussion around dual agency. I think there is a lot that could be fixed in dual agency. That's when things get really, really bad.
And that was one of the arguments in there too. Oh, actually, it wasn't in this article. There was a follow-up article in Inman that came out actually this morning, the day after this ruling was announced, and they were talking to other people, and it was talking about, is it dual agency, or are we going back to the way that we were, but just like with more disclosure. But I think dual agency could open, if dual agency isn't figured out, it could open us all up to even more lawsuits.
Oh, absolutely.
In the future, for sure.
To me, dual agency is the one thing that needs the most fixing in this industry, not this. Because listen, you had said it before we got on the air, like, oh, well, buyers could go and they could, maybe they're not going to go hire an agent to represent the whole transaction.
Like a consultant.
Maybe they're going to hire a consultant. Really? Because listen, people don't even want to pay the $500 for the inspection half the time.
Right.
Now all of a sudden they're going to have thousands of dollars to pay someone really to consult. I've heard this before in my past life, this consultant bullshit.
Yeah.
About,
well, you want to do the consultant thing.
No, listen, in my past life, I heard about this. Like, let's become consultants and charge residential buyers a fee. You're not going to have any business. You'll be out of business.
Yeah.
Residential home buyers, people looking to buy a home, don't have thousands of, this isn't a public traded company. This, Mr. and Mrs. Smith coming over to buy a home. These are people trying to buy a home. They're not going to have thousands of dollars to pay someone a consultant fee. They may have $500 for someone to run a comp. It's called an appraiser.